So here's the thing. My dad and I, we're like, when it comes to shopping, we're men. Okay, I'm not like the epitome of masculinity or anything like that. I mean, I'm not, super butch guy or anything. But nonetheless, when it comes to shopping, I very much am a guy. Okay, and here's how this works. This is the general rule of thumb for how men and women shop differently. Okay, so like women will create a list, but then when they go shopping, they will look for things not on the list. Okay, that's generally the rule of thumb there. So they'll go to a store and they'll be like, like my wife and I will have our shopping list. We'll go to the store like Walmart or Meijer or Kroger, and we'll go through the store and she'll be like, oh, what's this over here? And I'm like, but that's not on the list. She said, well, you said you would go shopping with me. I'm like, yes, and we have our list. Let's go get our list. Because a guy will look at it as an opportunity to conquer. That's what guys are about. They want to conquer. Okay, so conquering the shopping store means in and out in record time. That's what it means, okay? Now, for the average woman, shopping is meant to be an experience. Okay, so I would tell my wife, let's take the list. We could even like I'll go into this section, you can go into that section, and we'll get our shopping done faster. And then she says, no, I don't want to do that. My goal is to spend time with you. That's what she wants. She wants to, so for her, shopping is the thing that we do together. For me, shopping is something that I conquer. Well, one day, a while back, my dad and I went shopping together. And he's like me, man, we're going to get the shopping done. We're going to conquer Walmart. That was our plan. So when we get to Walmart, I had my list, he had his list, and I said, you know what we could do? What you want is on this side of the store, and what I want is on the other side in the store. So I got an idea. And my dad looked at me, twinkle in his eye, said the words I was thinking. You know what we could do? We could, anybody guess? We could divide and, you know the phrase. We can divide and conquer. He'll go there, I'll go there. And I said, here's what we'll do. You go in, I go in, and we'll get our stuff. We'll check out on the other ends of the store, and we'll meet here at the car, and we'll be done like that. My dad went, sounds like a good idea. Let's do this. So he took off, I took off. So he's over there, and I'm over here. So I got my cart, and I'm getting my list. I'm putting stuff in the bag. I'm going with great speed. I'm like, yes. I get over to the line, which was actually very small. I was excited. They didn't have scan yourself yet. And so I was like, yes, look at this. So I get in line. I get everything bought. I get it paid for in my cart. I'm running out to the parking lot. I get out to the parking lot, open up the trunk, put all the stuff into the trunk, shut the trunk. The basket goes into the cart corral. Yes, I'm done. I get into the car, start the car, put it in reverse. I back up and I drive home. Yeah, you're recognizing the problem here. I get home and I'm unloading all the groceries. I'm like, woo, I'm done. And then the phone rings. The landline at my parents' house rings. My mom answers the phone and I hear, what? He did what? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, she's talking to one of her sisters about her brother-in-law again. And that's what I'm thinking. And my mom comes into the room. I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm getting ready to break out some Zelda or something. I'm sitting down, feeling all accomplished for my day. My mom comes into the room and she's like, hey, I'm going to Walmart. I'm like, why? I was just there. She goes, I know, and your father still is. And I went, oh, snap. I left my dad at Walmart. And this is before the era of cell phones. Okay, so he couldn't call. He had to go to customer service and have me first paged to see if I was still in the facility. And then second, he had to ask them to call home so he could get a ride because his son left him at Walmart. So my mom's like, so he's really humiliated. He's not very happy. I would advise you're not here when I get home. Now, it's true story, by the way, 100% true story. Now, here's the point. I think that this incident very much describes the book of Esther. I know you might be like, there's no Walmart in the text. I don't see it here. Okay, bear with me. Check this out. God has been calling Israel out of exile back to Israel, to the promised land, to reestablish themselves as a nation, to reestablish themselves as a religion, and to reestablish themselves as what they're supposed to be as people. Okay, and some people aren't doing it. And so here's God, kind of like my dad, saying, where are you? come where you're supposed to be. Okay, that's kind of what God is doing. And he did it in the form of prophets. Okay, that was like he sent out his own paging text message system, like prophetic text. Okay, so he sent out prophets that would tell Israel to go back home. And some of them didn't do it. Okay, and some of them decided that they would just stay in their exiled land because they liked their jobs. So they stayed in exile rather than going back home. And so God 3 times calls Israel back. He did it twice before Esther and once more after the story of Esther. Okay, he calls them again. That's with Nehemiah. And so 3 times God's like, hey, wake up. Hey, come back home. Hey, get the job done. Hey, come back, rebuild the temple, rebuild the houses, rebuild the walls, rebuild the city, reestablish yourselves. Hey, what are you guys doing? Why are you not there? And he calls again and again because God sometimes has that type of amazing patience. I don't know how many times you have lost your patience when your child refuses to listen to you when you ask them to do something. Anybody ever have to repeat themselves more than once at their kids? Okay, some people are like, I don't have kids. My parents yell at me all the time. That's because you're not listening the first time. Okay, that's what's going on. Right? And so that's what God is doing with Israel. So here's our story of Esther as a recap. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks since we've been in Esther. We had a couple weeks off. We had a leadership thing, and we had some breaks. So let's recap the life principle, shall we? It's going to be amazing. We're going to go through like 6 chapters of Esther in 2 minutes. Are you ready? You're not. Okay, that's all right. I'll do it faster. That'll get you ready. Life principle number 1. Here's what we have learned so far. 1, that what is legal is not always moral. Therefore, we are to submit to a triad of authority, which is we have the authority of the home. Above that is the authority of government. Above that is the authority of God. Okay, so that's our principle number 1. Vashti abided by that type of principle, and so that was a great example for us to learn from. Life principle number 2 is that we must be people of confession and repentance and be initiators of that process. Okay, so if we wrong somebody, and we need to confess that we did it and we need to repent from it, and we can't wait for them to approach us on it. We have to be the initiators of that process. Point number 3 was that we are to pursue Jesus, not self-glory or comfort. Xerxes was all about self-glory, how awesome he is, how amazing he is, and how he can make himself look all the more great. The comfort pursuit was Israel choosing comfort rather than God. Okay, they didn't want to pursue the religion of God. They were just pursuing their comfort. So that's kind of what they were doing. And so they had different, there's like laws in the Old Testament that were very clear, like in Deuteronomy 7 and amongst other places where it's you do not marry outside of the faith. And yet here's Esther marrying outside of the faith. Here's Esther sleeping with someone she's not even married to. Here's Mordecai telling Esther, you know what, let's keep things comfortable. Don't let anyone know you're a Jew. So don't follow dietary laws. Don't honor the Sabbath. Don't let them ever see you behave like a Jew, look like a Jew, talk like a Jew, etc. And so there's that whole process that was going on. And so it was all about comfort. Okay, and so we learned we are to pursue Jesus, not our self-comfort. Because to be honest, to live for God means to live an uncomfortable life. That's what it means, because we will have to live countercultural. We will have to live against the grain. That will be the life of the Christian. That is what it means to be of the people of God, is to be different than society at large, and that is awkward, it is difficult, it means sacrifice, suffering, and at times persecution and martyrdom. Okay, so it's a very difficult call, but that was our call at number 3. Number 4 was to choose purity over compromise. That we are to be pure for the sake of God. We are to be pure because he commanded it. We are to be pure as we reflect God's holiness and purity, and we are not to compromise our sexual integrity. We are not to compromise our purity and our holiness for the sake of self-gratification, to please ourselves, or for anything other like that at all. So we are to choose purity over compromise. Point number 5 was that if something is wrong, those who can act should act. So if something is wrong, if you have the ability to intervene, you must intervene. It is your job. It is your expectation. God might be calling you to act. This was Mordecai pushing Esther to try to use the authority that she has been given to actually intervene. She didn't want to at first, but finally with enough nudging, she agreed to it. And it's interesting, at this point is when Esther becomes serious about her faith in God, Mordecai becomes serious about his faith in God. Sometimes in life, tragedy hits, and it's that tragedy, that those circumstances that sometimes helps us to become re-aware and re-motivated to follow God. And our call there was to hopefully that we wouldn't need to wait till tragedy before we get serious about our faith. Point number 6 was that we are to love all people no matter how different. That was our choose your own sermon adventure, and that was the one you guys ended up picking. Congratulations. There was 2 other options. You didn't pick those. Tough. So I'm not going to share what those were, but this was love all people no matter how different. That means that if they're a Patriot fan, you love them. Oh, hard now, isn't it? See? You're like, yeah, I agree with you, Pastor. Good one. Love all people. Love all people. Patriots fans. Now you're meddling. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, love all people. If they're the type of person that has a chain that connects their nose to their ear to their belly button, you just want to grab it and see if a parachute pops out. Love all people, no matter how different. And so that was point number 6. Point number 7 was draw close to Jesus. Let Jesus draw close to you. Okay, and we have to go through that whole thing on recognizing we just need to make him the center of our life, the center of our identity. This is what Esther was doing with her fasting and praying that she did to try to find the wisdom to do what God wanted her to do. Okay, so that was really neat. Point number 8 was be people of hope and action. That we need to realize that things are not like they're supposed to be, but we believe that change is possible. And out of that belief comes hope. And out of that hope comes action. Show me someone who does not act for their faith. I'll show you someone who does not have hope in their faith. Okay, because the two go symbiotically together. They go hand in hand. If you have hope, you will act out of that hope. And so Esther chooses to act, and that's when she comes up with this banquet. And as she goes to approach the king, she respects authority, even when those who are in authority are not respectable. Many times, people will get into positions of leadership, and we say they don't belong there. They don't deserve it. They're not a respectable person. They're arrogant. They're a jerk. They're blowhards. Whatever the case is, they're arrogant people. They're just whatever. They're not respectable people. They're not faithful. They have no integrity. Whatever the case is. If they're in authority, you respect them. Okay, it doesn't mean you agree with them. It means you respect them because of the position they have been given. So Esther's husband, not a respectable man. Not a respectable man at all. King Xerxes, very much a jerk. Okay, he really is. He's very much a jerk. He's naive. He's an imbecile. Okay, and the queen respects her husband. And that was an awesome demonstration of that respect. That brings us to the last point that we had, which was be inspiring people of influence rather than imposing people of intimidation. That we should inspire people and influence people through inspiration and try to help build hope in other people. This is what faith is supposed to do, is to show the people that is the hope that is within us, the faith that is of the hope of things unseen. We are to be that type of people that share hope with the world, that they will be inspired by that to live a different life for the glory of God, rather than being people of imposing intimidation, where you try to just brute force people or show anger to try to persuade people to go to your point of view. And so that's what Haman was trying to do, using the law in order to manipulate people to get what he wants. And we don't want to be like that. We want to be people of influence and hope and inspiring rather than people of intimidation. So that's where we left off. There's this banquet that has been summoned, and after the end of the banquet was all done, it's like, okay, we're going to have a second banquet 2.0. Okay, and so it's where we left off was at the end of the first banquet and right before the beginning of the second banquet. And our principle for this week, principle number 11, is going to be this: to trust in the presence and providence of God before you perceive it. Okay, to trust in the presence and providence of God. In other words, what this means is this. I use these big words because they begin with the letter P. Okay? Another way of saying this is, know that God is with you. Know that God will provide for you even when you don't feel like he's there. Even when you can't see his presence with your eyes wide open. You don't see him around, you don't understand what's going on, and yet you still trust that he is present and he cares and he has your best interest in mind. Even when you do not perceive his existence. Even when it feels like he is not present at all. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, is looking at this idea, this principle from Esther chapter 6. Now there's only 14 verses. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to run right through all 14 verses at once, because it's a story. And I want you to see this event unfold prior to the banquet. I don't want to break it up a lot. So we're going to go through the whole thing so you can get the big picture, and then we're going to go back and dissect some little principles here and there out of it. So here we go. So we've had our recap. Let's dig in now to the king's sleepless night. Now I cannot stress the importance of this. The whole book of Esther, by the way, is grammatically written in such a way that points to this section of Scripture. The author of Esther has identified, using grammar, that this is the purpose of this book. That this is the focus of this book. So I cannot stress, a lot of Jews have made this book about the rescuing of the Jews. And yes, that is definitely what's going on. And that is a big issue and a big deal, that God is faithful to his people, even when his people are not faithful to him. Okay, so that's a big theme of this book. Big theme. However, the grammar points to this chapter, this moment, this event of a sleepless night. Because think of it like this. Why did he have a sleepless night now? Why, with all these turn of events, right when Esther said, I'll have a banquet, come, then I'll tell you why. And then she says, we're going to have a second banquet. And right in between those two banquets, the king can't sleep. Is it a coincidence? Or is it what a coinkydink, wink, wink? You see, what a coinkydink, wink, wink means that you might not see God in the text, you might not perceive God is there, but he is very present, very involved, and his providence is at hand. That God is at work behind the scenes. So it's not written in the text, but the reader is supposed to see that God is doing something amazing here. Something powerful is at work. And it's just not by happenstance that the king has insomnia this night. Okay, so let's see how this works. So that night, sleep, what? The king escaped. It's not that he was just stressed out. It's not that he just couldn't sleep. Sleep escaped the king. Sleep has flown the coop. Sleep has been a prisoner and is now free. And the warden's going, where's Sleep? He's gone. Okay, so Sleep has escaped the king. So what's the cure for insomnia? The History Channel. It is. So the king ordered the book recording daily events to be brought and read to the king. So he's like, I can't sleep. Bring me my journal. Bring me my diary. Tell me about me. That'll put me to sleep. Okay, that's what he does. So they found the written report, how Mordecai had informed on Bigthana and Teresh, two eunuchs who guarded the king's entrance when they planned to assassinate King Ahasuerus, or King Xerxes. Same person, different name, different language. Okay, so Mordecai had found out about that plot. The king inquired what honor and special recognition had been given to Mordecai for this act. Because here's what the kings of Persia prided themselves on, that they honored people above and beyond the call of duty. Because the more they honored someone, the more it showed off their wealth and power and prestige. So they prided themselves in bragging about how they give money and honor to other people. Isn't that an interesting dynamic? Okay, so that's how they prided themselves. This would be a lot like a Christian that walks in and says, yep, I just went ahead and gave $18,000 to Goodwill. I took all my clothes and I gave them all. I gave more clothes than you. And another person says, oh yeah, I brought 3 trash bags of clothes. How many did you bring? I bought 4. And they were the hefty cent sacks. And so that's kind of what the Persians did. They're all bragging about how great they can help someone and honor someone. Okay, so now the king hears about this and he's like, I don't remember a party. I don't remember a big celebration. I don't remember anything lavish happening recently. So that's why he inquires, what has been done for Mordecai? Now it's interesting that it's this night that he figures this out, not before. It's now that he figures it out. So the king's personal attendant replied, nothing has been done for him. And King Xerxes mortified. He's like, what? I almost imagine this part being played by Steve Carell. I could make a great movie about Esther. This would be so much fun. Steve Carell should play the king. I think it would work out real well. And he'd be like, what? What? Then so he asked, who's in the court? Because he's going to fix it now. He's like, oh, this is unacceptable. This is a chance I could have shined. This is a chance that I could have done something amazing. So bring somebody in. Who's in the court? Who's in the court right now? Now. The text continues, Haman was just entering the outer court of the palace to ask the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows. Okay, and by hanging on the gallows, it does not mean a noose around the neck. This was an impaling. They called it hanging on a tree. It is the beginning of the precursor of crucifixion. The Romans took this practice and they perfected it, hanging on a tree to be crucifixion. It started with the Persians here. They were the ones that began this as an official practice like this. Okay, so they would do an impaling-like system where they would hang someone on a tree, and sometimes they would do really tall spears to hoist the bodies even higher in the air because they wanted everyone to be able to see it from afar. Okay, that's how the Persians like to do it. And so that's what Haman's ready to do. Haman's like walking in, I'm going to ask the king to kill Mordecai. I got a 75-foot stick. I can't wait to put him on. This is going to be great. So Haman's outside going, here we go. I'm going to have a meeting with the king. Going to kill Mordecai. This is going to be awesome. Meanwhile, the king's like, man, we got to honor Mordecai. Who's in the court? Do you see the humor of this? This is comedy gold. This is awesome. This is like, oh man, I can't wait to see how this is going to unfold. This is going to be epic. Okay, so they say, so now Haman, the narrator's telling us that Haman just entered the outer courts of the palace to hang Mordecai on the gallows he had just prepared for him. So the king's attendants answered him, well, Haman's out there standing in the court. And the king's like, awesome. Send him in. So have him enter, the king ordered. So Haman entered. And Haman's like, whoo, I get an audience with the king. Here we go. This is it. And the king asked him, hey, before you talk, Haman, I speak first. Haman's like, yes, king, speak first, please. And so then the king says, what should be done for the man that the king wants to honor? So now Haman's like, he's talking about me. That's what Haman's thinking. I'm telling you, seriously. Haman's thinking it's all about him. Okay, so it says, Haman thought to himself, who is it the king would want to honor more than me? Okay, so that's what Haman's doing now. So Haman's like, I'm Haman, and I'm awesome. So why would he not want to honor me? Oh, this is going to... So Haman's goal, by the way, is to take everything from the king except his wife. That's Haman's goal. Okay, that's how much jealousy, how much envy, how much everything Haman has in him, how much sinfulness and selfishness he has. He wants to take everything from the king except for his wife. So check this out. So Haman told the king, for the man, I imagine him doing air quotes. For the man, Haman, for the man the king wants to honor, have them bring a royal garment that the king himself has worn. Okay, so he wants to wear the king's clothes. Right, so this is like the emperor's new clothing. So have them bring the king's clothes that has been worn by the king and a horse that the king himself has ridden. So I want your clothes, I want your horse. Okay, that's what Haman's saying. I want your clothes, I want your horse, which has a royal diadem on its head. So bring me your royal jewels, and let's really make this amazing. So put the garment on the horse under the charge of one of the king's most noble officials. His wondering mind, I wonder, it doesn't say this, I wonder if he's thinking Mordecai might be the one to have to do this. that maybe Mordecai would be the one to have to parade Haman around. And Haman would be like, ha, 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 ha. This is going to be fun. I get to rub his nose in it, and then I get to stick it to him. That might be what Haman's thinking. Okay, so Haman's twisted. I'm telling you, don't put it past him on this. So he's like, so under the noble officials, have them clothe the man the king wants to honor, parade him on the horse through the city square, and proclaim before him, this is what is done for the man the king wants to honor. That is Haman's advice. And Haman just kind of sits back and goes, today is going to be the best day ever. I am totally hashtagging this. This is going down on my Facebook story. I'm telling you, this is happening. And so Haman is all excited. I imagine he's pulling out his phone and he starts tapping. Oh, I know they didn't have cell phones, but bear with me on this a little bit, okay? I'm having fun. And so he's tapping up on his phone. He has his app ready. He's getting ready to type up everything that's about to happen. See you in the square, y'all. Come over here, bro. This is going to rock. As he's just wanting to invite everyone, he's getting ready. So the king told Haman, hurry, Haman, and do just as you had proposed. Take a garment and a horse for Mordecai the Jew. Now, I imagine Haman should be played by Jim Carrey. And this is where Haman goes, what are you talking about? He's like, what? I imagine a big old rubber face thing going on, and he drops his phone. Maybe he throws a what? And he's freaking out for Mordecai the Jew, who is sitting at the king's gate, in case you got it confused with the different Mordecai the Jew someplace else. Okay, so he's like, go to the king's gate, get Mordecai the Jew, and do all that you've said. And then the king specifies. It's as if he's rubbing Haman's face in it unknowingly. He says, do not leave out anything you have suggested. Okay, don't leave anything out. Do it all to the letter of the law, so to speak. Okay, so Haman took the garment and the horse. Imagine what this would be like for Haman. We look at it and we laugh, and it's funnier than anything. But man, Haman's really got to be stewing on this one. Okay, this has got to be really hard for Haman. He's grabbing this cloak. It's supposed to be on him, putting it on Mordecai, who never bows, never salutes, and just grabs the horse, puts the diadems on it. Okay, and then Haman has to lead Mordecai on the horse and paraded him through the city square, crying out, and I think the word crying is used on purpose. I think there were tears. I think it's not calling out or declaring. I think it's crying out on purpose. He's kind of like, and I don't think this was said with much gusto. I think it's kind of like, and this is what is done for the man who the king wants to honor. It's just, so he's calling this out. He's crying. This is this great moment. I'm talking, this is somebody getting their just deserves. This would be almost, if done right, this could be almost as funny as Home Alone. I'm telling you, this could really be a great thing happening here. Maybe he trips and he falls in a pile of horse apples. You never know. You could really add some stuff just for a little extra zing, just for fun. But then Mordecai returns to the king's gate. Now I want you to underline that. We're going to come back to this in about an hour. Seeing who's awake. Okay, so I want you to underline this. If you're a type that writes in your Bibles, underline this. This is going to be what we're going to end our sermon on today and our time together today. So this is very important, very important. Okay, so Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman, overwhelmed, you think? I would like to say on the verge of tears, like many of you will be when the Patriots win today. So Haman, overwhelmed, hurried off for home with his head covered. So this is the invention of the hoodie. And so he just is like, don't even look at me. Don't even, no, I can't even, I'm looking at the ground. There's a beautiful crack. Look at that. That's it. He's no eye contact with anyone, head covered. And Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened. Everything that had happened. He just says, you won't believe the day I've had. And Zeresh was like, you won't believe my day. The kids were wild, the sink clogged up, and our cable went out for like an hour. And then Haman's like, no, you need to hear this. I trump you on this one. I got this, okay? No. My day's worse. For once, my day's worse. And so Haman tells them everything that happened. And his advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, what would you say to your spouse if they had this happen to them? Said to them, since Mordecai is Jewish, and you have begun to fall before him, you will not overcome him, because your downfall is certain. Think of this. This means they know Israel's history. This means they know that when Israel writes themselves before God, God is their general and victor. And that when you fight God's people, you fight God. She knows this about Israel. She knows this. She's aware of this. The friends and advisors know this. They're aware of this. That when you fight God's people, you are fighting against God. How encouraging and inspiring is that for us to know that if we're the people of God and we do our best to honor him, anyone that fights against us are taking up a beef with him. And that's a battle they're going to lose. Because God always wins. And so she tells him, it's over for you. You're, in the words of Star Wars, you're bantha fodder. Okay, it's over for you. It's done. It's gone. You are defeated. You've begun to fall, which means she knows that they have figured out what it means to be the people of God. Because she thought they could win if they could just kill them fast enough. As long as they're not acting like the people of God, they have a fighting chance. But she knows now repentance has happened. She knows now Israel is restoring as the people they're supposed to be. She knows now that the battle is futile. And it's not going to end well for Haman. And while they were still speaking, so in the middle of all this happening, there's a knock at the door. And the eunuchs of the king arrive, and they grab Haman, and they say, Haman, it's time for the next banquet. Where Esther's going to tell you what she's been wanting this whole time. So just when Haman thought it couldn't get any worse, what's about to happen is going to astound everyone for history. And that's where chapter 6 ends. Yeah, the banquet will be next week. You saw the title. It says Banquet 2.0. Yeah, we're now up to it. But now I want to get some points across. I don't want us to miss some great life applications from this. Because we have a struggle to be like Haman sometimes. And I know we don't see it because we often see it in other people. It's easy to see the faults in other people and not see it in our own lives. So I'm hoping to help point some things out. I'm not trying to use hard words to offend you. My goal is that these hard words will create soft hearts. That's my hope. Okay, so I want to try to present this as gentle as I can. It will be difficult for some of us. It's difficult for me when I was writing this down because some of this hits me right between the eyes because we all are going to struggle with what's about to come. Before we get there, I do want to show you something fun. Some of the fun stuff I had to cut out because of time, so I was deleting it even as late as last night, technically midnight, 1 o'clock this morning. And so I was deleting some stuff because all of a sudden I got in bed and I went, ooh, my sermon's too long. I forgot about communion. And so I went through and deleted some stuff. And so I did. But I wanted to save this for you. This is the book of Esther. This is a chapter from chapter 5 in the Hebrew for you. Now, isn't that awesome looking? I mean, can you see why I would point this out? Yeah, I know. You're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I understand. Hebrew was hard for me. I studied it for several years, and it's an evil language. It really is. The only thing worse than this is English. That's all there is. Okay, but I want to point out this. Middle of this, okay? I want to point this little middle section out here for you a little bit here. This Esther chapter 5, verse 4, where it says, let Haman and the king come to the banquet. Okay, this is what this is saying. Now, And it reads from right to left. It reads more like a manga novel than it does our normal novels, okay? So it goes from right to left. That's how Hebrew is. Now, here's why I point this out. Hebrew as a language, you can take a sentence and you could jumble all the words up and it translates the same. Okay, because where the words are placed doesn't matter for the translating of it. It's the ending of the words that tell you what belongs to what and how to translate it. Because Hebrew works that way, oftentimes authors will arrange the words to try to say this is more important than this word by placing it first in the sentence. Okay, and then you still translate it the same, but there's an emphasis maybe on the person's name or on an event that happened or on a sin that took place. Okay, this was arranged in a very interesting way to where the first letter in each of these first 4 words are very fascinating. And there was a Baptist scholar in the 1990s that discovered this for the first time. No one ever published anything on this before. And so this was something that's relatively new in academic research for you. And if you were to flip this around, that's the name of God. That's Yahweh. The first letter of the first 4 words are arranged to spell the name Yahweh, the covenanting God who maintains relationship with his people. What is Esther about? Fallen people where God maintains the relationships. Where is this happening? Right during the banquet before the king loses his sleep. And people say God's not in the text. Could it be that this is a coincidence? Or is it what a quinkadink wink wink? I'll leave that for you to decide. What we do need to talk about regarding all of this is the very difficult issue of pride versus humility. And this is going to be tough. Pride versus humility. And here's the thing I want us to be able to realize is that pride or humility actually is not a destination. Humility is not a destination. It is a direction. If you think about it, this is actually very helpful, but you have to really think this through. If humility was a destination, how would you know you got there? How would you know you were humble? Could you imagine what that would be like? You're sitting down working, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I made it! I'm humble! Woohoo! I'm humble! Yes! Look at me! Wait a minute. Don't! Nope, not humble. Okay, you can't, it is a direction. It is not a destination. One author and pastor, C.J. Mahaney, he wrote a book called Humility, and he said this in his book. He said, no one can ever say they are humble. All they can say is that they're a proud person pursuing humility by the grace of God. And I love that. That he says you can't say you're a humble person. All you can say is you're a proud person who is on the pursuit of humility. And that is forever a lifelong quest. You will never actually achieve it. I mean, think about it. Could you ever actually say that you're more humble than somebody else? Could you actually say that I know I'm maturing as a Christian because I'm more humble? I know you have maturing to do because you're not as humble yet. See, that doesn't work, does it? So humility is this awkward thing that we think we can say, I'm a humble person, I don't struggle with pride, and it's like almost in declaring that, you just revealed your sin. Almost in just declaration. If I were to say, who here would describe yourself as a humble person and pride is not your struggle, some of you might go, yeah, I don't struggle with pride. I'd be like, there it is. Ding, 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 we got a winner. Congratulations, you win. You are more prideful than you want to realize. So what I want to do is try to help us see the pride in our lives through a series of just 6 brief questions. And these will go relatively quick. So I just want to shoot out some of these quick questions for you to try to help you see whether or not where pride is hiding within your life. So a couple of quick questions. And so that doesn't belong there. So question number 1, do you crave attention, recognition, honor, or reward? It's question number 1. Do you crave recognition, attention, honor, or reward? And a way of asking this would almost be, have you ever been overlooked and were frustrated about that? Like, have you ever been where you did something, somebody at work didn't notice? Was that ever a point of complaint for you? That somebody did not notice something you have done? And see, therein is pride. Because the desire is for recognition. Now, is receiving these things, is that a bad thing? No. But craving these becomes the issue of pride. Craving them, desiring them becomes an issue of pride, because when we don't get it, we will then respond by anger and pointing everything to us. The second one would be this: do you crave an audience? Do you crave an audience? When something goes wrong, or somebody offends you or hurts you, or whatever the case is, maybe something goes amazing, and the first thing you got to do is you got to hit Facebook. And the first thing you got to do is you got to tweet it and get it out there. And you start finding out that you're talking, you don't talk to people, you're talking about people online constantly. Because you're craving an audience and you're kind of recruiting an army to support your social cause. And so is that going on? In fact, if I were to say that I have actually logged into everybody's Facebook, actually I logged in my Facebook, and I have connected my server to everybody's Facebook pages that have one, and I'm going to look at your posts, we're going to put them on the screen, I'm going to show some examples, would you get nervous? And if you're nervous, odds are it's because you have something to hide. I'm not going to do that. I thought about it. I really did. I thought about it. But I'm not going to do that. But do you crave an audience? Because here's what pride does. Pride versus humility is kind of like the difference between a microscope and a telescope. Okay? Here's the difference. So a microscope is pride. That would be my metaphor for pride. Here's what it does. It takes something that in actuality is really small and tries to make it look bigger than it is. Okay, so when we look at the grandness of the universe and the holiness of God, we are but a speck. We are but a mist in the wind. Okay, that's how Proverbs describes us, and so the psalmist describes us, that we are but a speck. We're like a mist in the wind when it comes to the grandness of everything. We are minor, insignificant little specks. Okay, but pride wants to take a microscope and say, look how great this is. Look how amazing this is. Look at all the stuff. Look at everything it does. And they just want to make everything look bigger than it is. Here's what a telescope does. Telescope doesn't look at itself. Okay? A telescope wants to look at whatever perceives to be small and then reveal that it's not small at all. And this is what we're supposed to do to God. We're supposed to look at the kingdom of God that for some people it appears like it's far away and is small and insignificant. Kind of like the planet Jupiter. If you were to look in the sky and say, see that blinking dot? That's Jupiter. And my kids would go, that's itty bitty. It's so small. My fingernail's bigger than that Jupiter planet. But then a telescope says, let me show you. Let me magnify its awesomeness. Let me reveal. And when we magnify the Lord, when we sing a song about magnifying God, or when the Bible tells us to magnify the Lord, is telling us to be a telescope to show and reveal how great and mighty God is, how awesome and vast his kingdom is. And so pride takes a microscope and says, look how great this small speck is. Humility takes a telescope and says, look how awesome God is. And it points out rather than in and down. Okay, so that's kind of the difference here. And if somebody craves an audience, they're acting like a microscope. They're acting like a microscope. Question number 3, do you become jealous when someone else succeeds? Do you become jealous when someone else succeeds? Let me just kind of make this really intensely practical, besides just the fact that somebody might get promoted a promotion you wanted. Besides that, let me just offer this. This one will be for the ladies. You ready? This is a true thing about me that I'm going to share for you ladies. I lose weight by eating chocolate. Now, how do you feel about that, ladies? The more chocolate I eat, the more weight I lose. I kid you not. I just lose weight eating chocolate. I have a candy bar every day, and I lose weight. Okay? Now, will you ladies be willing to stand up and rejoice with me that I lose weight eating chocolate? Or will you say inside your mind, man, when I eat chocolate, I swell up like a puffer fish? And maybe you might say something like this. Maybe you might say, just wait till you get to be my age. You won't be able to say that anymore. Because you're not rejoicing with me. You're criticizing me. Telling me how horrible and unfair it is that I lose weight eating chocolate when you swell up like a pufferfish when you eat chocolate. But you don't rejoice. You see, so we can become jealous when someone else succeeds. It can happen. A lady walks in with a really tight dress and everything looks like something out of a magazine, and a woman looks at her and says, "Man, I bet she can't read." You got to criticize because you don't want to rejoice when someone else succeeds. We struggle with that.